Hey there, good morning. Welcome back to my garden. This morning, as I was walking around doing some watering, just watering in new things that we've planted here and there, I was thinking that it would be a really good day to go ahead and start this kind of small but like ongoing series that I've been thinking about just featuring what's currently blooming. So I was thinking of maybe, doing it on a Wednesday, every other Wednesday maybe, and calling it What's Blooming Wednesday. Um, Not full garden tours or anything like that, but just showing you what is currently in bloom in my garden. And I thought it would be fun for you to see and also pretty helpful for me to see how things change maybe year to year of when things are blooming, or I can look back on it and say, when is this going to bloom? And I can maybe look at these videos and remember. So, just as a reminder, I'm in Western Oregon. We're zone 8B, but we are a little bit higher in elevation here at my house. We're at about 1,300 feet. And so things tend to bloom a little bit later for me than what they bloom down like in the valley area. So that's just something to keep in mind. So what's blooming now here for me may not be in bloom yet for you, or it may be done. We'll see. But anyways, I noticed some things that are in bloom right now, and I just really wanted to share them with you. So let's just get started. So first, as you can see, this is why I started here. This is in our back garden, kind of a shady space. This is Clematis montana, or Himalayan clematis, or also called an anemone clematis. You can kind of see they look a little bit like anemones. I've had this in the ground for a number of years. I've never had it bloom so profusely, and I think that's because I tend to cut it back early in the spring, and then of course I cut off what's going to bloom. So that's kind of a bummer. So last year I just kind of let it go. This spring I didn't cut it back, and you can see it's climbing all the way up into this privet and blooming like crazy. It's so sweet, very pretty. I don't know what I'm going to do after it's done blooming because I feel like I should probably cut it back. So, anyways, that is gorgeous and in bloom. And right below that, also in bloom, is called leopard's bane. It's very sweet, bright, kind of daisy like flower, but with a lot thinner petals. You can see the Brennera is still in bloom here, but it's also pushing out its larger leaves, but it has the sweet, sweet forget-me-not flowers. And also right behind that is some lungwort that's still in bloom. So that's kind of what's growing down low, or blooming down low rather. And then above that is a very sweet dogwood. I don't recall the variety of this, but again, I just don't think this has ever bloomed this well. These blooms are quite large, or larger than I remember them being. It's a pretty small tree. I've had it in the ground here for a number of years, and it just grows really slow, but sweet, sweet pink blooms. In a number of places in the garden, I still have pansies and violas blooming. That kind of carries me through until the summer annuals really take off. And so we'll come up here to this area. There's still some Johnny jump ups that are blooming. And as we come up these steps, you can see some more lungwort. The quince is still blooming, just coming out of color, but just in time for this gorgeous weigela to start blooming. This is a variegated variety, very soft pink flowers, but of course I just love this look. When the buds, you can see the buds are a little bit darker and then they open up to the lighter pink. I just love that added kind of depth of color. And this obviously still has a lot of bloom time left. It's just getting started, but I do love this shrub. And then as we come this way, you can see that the double file viburnum is in bloom too. So we'll go down here and get this perspective. It's a little bit oddly shaped. It really wants to be a lot wider than it is, but I have this path here, so I've kind of been limbing it up on this side a little bit, but that's okay. Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. But it is in full bloom. Everything is open and looking gorgeous. I love this one. I've talked about it before. This came to me as a start from my parents' previous garden. It was just a baby that had rooted itself underneath their double file viburnum. So we dug it up and I transplanted it here, and I just love it. I love it in this bed. So whenever it blooms is pretty exciting for me. All right, so down here you can see this is a stand of Columbine. And the Columbine is just starting to open. I have this all over my garden, so we'll just take a quick look at this one. It's a dark purple. I think I got the seeds from my mother-in-law for this one, and they've just kind of spread themselves around wherever they want to be. There's some phlox that's still in bloom. You can see it right there, and then another little stand right there. And then still another little mat of it right there next to some spurge that's blooming. And the candy tuft is still in bloom. A little bit of color still on that over here. And then I noticed today too that these Glow Girl Spirea are starting to open. You can see just these sweet white flowers. They contrast really well with the chartreuse foliage, and it's has a lot of blooming yet to do, but I was excited to see those starting to come on. This was just planted in, there's 3 shrubs here, and these were just planted in last year, so I'm excited to always see how well plants do if they start blooming like this. Just the second year in the ground is really encouraging. All right, coming this way, you can see that some of the phlox is just coming out of bloom. About time to shear that back. And then this California lilac is just starting to open up. It's a pretty open habit shrub. I think they tend to bloom or to grow a little bit denser than mine is, but that's okay. I don't mind that. This lilac is interesting. This one gets a little bit more shade. This one is about to start opening. It's covered in buds. We'll see one though in the front yard that's in full bloom. Creeping Veronica is also in bloom. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this area, but you can still see there's lots of interest even though there's not a ton in bloom back here yet. So I don't really show this garden very often. It's underneath a fir tree. It's quite shady, quite dry. I don't come over here and water very often. So one of the plants I put in here was, I think it's called epimedium, and it has these little like tiny columbine like flowers. And so those are blooming right underneath these. I think they're bluebells. And then the ajuga that's also in bloom right here. So those are exciting to see coming into bloom. They're a little bit underwhelming, I guess, but you know, considering how much I do over here in this garden, it's fun to actually see that anything is blooming. Okay, we'll walk over here to this garden now. You see that the ajuga is just about to be done blooming. It's kind of just up to the top of it, but I do have some Jacob's ladder right here, and then one right in here. It's a little harder to see because of the shade that it's in, but this one has been in bloom for several weeks now, and I think it's just about done. But the blooms on this are beautiful, but obviously the foliage is really pretty striking too. All right, just came down these steps here, and we have a couple Spanish lavender right here that are just coming into bloom. This one's a little further ahead, it looks like, than its neighbor. This is just, I think, just the standard, the most easy one to find in the nurseries of a dark purple Spanish lavender. And I suppose right over here next to where we just were, you could call this cushion spurge being in bloom with this very bright, I don't know, I guess those are its flowers. super bright. And then as we pan up here, you can also see the ajuga is in bloom still. And then also the brunnera, which I just really like that. I like that color combination of these darker blue. They are a lot more on the blue side, I think, than the purple side on these ajuga. So that's a sweet combination underneath this maple tree. Okay, right up here is kind of why I want to do these videos, because some things just don't last. Their bloom time doesn't last as long. So this is a crabapple. I'll put up on the screen what variety it is. I always forget, but kind of a lollipop shape, and it is just coming out of bloom. Didn't bloom profusely, but that's okay. It's still sweet, pretty, just a dainty, really pale pink on this one. And then underneath that, you can see we have another variegated Weigela, same as the back one. So I'm going to have to figure that out, limbing up this probably, because you saw in the back how big that shrub can get. Or I'll just have to keep on, you know, pruning this one to keep it in check. And there is another one right here that is also coming into bloom. These ones are not as established as the other, so I think that may be why they're blooming a little bit later than the one in the backyard. We also have some Nemesia that came back in bloom, which is super fun. Didn't know that that would come back for me, but it's just in this container with a little hydrangea. So that's a sweet surprise to have those little dainty pink flowers in bloom. Okay, we'll come over here and I'm going to try to do my best to not get into the crazy sunshine, but you can see this hardy geranium that I have a lot of. It spreads really well, also transplants really well. This one is starting to come into bloom, and I'll show you another variety that is also, not all of my hardy geraniums are in bloom yet, but this one looks like it's the earliest to come into bloom. Another shrub, well, I almost called it a shrub. It's a perennial, but it looks like a shrub. But another plant that's in bloom is the mountain bluette. This one spreads rather aggressively. It's hard to get rid of. It's blooming beautifully, but usually once it's done blooming, I cut it all the way back to the ground. In a lot of places I do also pull it out, but you can see behind here, this is an example of how this hardy geranium does at transplanting. I just put these here last year as little itty bitty plugs, and they're filling in really well. Also have some euphorbia here that's in bloom. These I will be cutting back really soon. I'll be cutting the bloom stalks all the way back so that it'll just be this foliage that's in here. I'm sorry for the light. The sun is just coming up through the trees, but I have to be on it with cutting these back because they do spread a lot by seed, and I don't want those everywhere. So I'll be coming in and cutting those back really soon. You can see some more of those over here. And then also this Weigella is about to completely be covered. The hummingbirds love this plant. I see them over here all the time, as well as pollinators. I just saw a big old bumblebee going into one of the flowers. So that's so awesome to see. This one is very old. Well, I shouldn't say very old. It's probably maybe 15 years old. Pretty large, but it's going to be glorious here in short order, covered in its flowers. So we'll just scan this way. See, there are some Supertunia mini Vista whites that are in bloom, of course. I don't think I'll probably pay much attention in these videos to annuals because they'll just constantly be blooming. But here's a jam that's in bloom. It's just a short one, but gosh, I love that bloom. I think it's so beautiful. I don't have much of this color in my garden, kind of for good reason, because I don't really, it's kind of a little bit eye-catching. It's not as soothing maybe as other colors, but here and there I really do love it. I'm going to step right over here and try to get into some better light. See, the cat's pajama nepeta is just about to start really being covered in blooms. There's another one right here. It's really getting covered up by the spirea and the heuchera. Kind of the name of the game in some of these gardens, but those are really just getting started as this phlox is kind of ending. So right down here, there's a little bit better light to see, but this hardy geranium is also starting to come into bloom. Have this one in quite a few places, and it also is really easy to transplant and really easy to grow. I just really recommend hardy geraniums. They're kind of just a staple, easy to grow plant, really great to have in the garden. Okay, so coming this way, you can see that the snow in summer is really beautiful. This one kind of just takes over after the candy tuft is done, which I love because it's just this carpet of white, lovely dainty flower that just kind of blows in the breeze. Some snow in summer varieties are lower to the ground, but this one seems to actually come up a little bit higher. So that's just something to take into consideration. Also, my rhodie is starting to bloom. So exciting when this comes into bloom. I don't know what it is about certain plants in my garden, certain shrubs especially, that when they start to bloom, I just get really excited. This one's also been in my garden for a long time. You can see it's just a really soft pink, and yeah, it doesn't get as covered as other rhodies that I've seen out there, but I don't mind that. I think think it's beautiful as it is. So this little itty bitty sweet columbine is starting to open. It's the pink pickety, I believe. I got it last year. So this is its first year blooming in my garden, and so cute. I have some more over on this other side, but you can see as I peek over this way, there's more of the snow and summer blooming there against some mountain bluette and up into the rhodey. There's a little bit more of a stand of this columbine. Isn't that interesting? It's so different from the typical varieties. So sweet. Okay, now we're up here in the front garden. And as I said, in the back, there was lilac back there that wasn't quite open yet, but this one has just started. I believe they're the same varieties. I think that they're both the bloomerang lilacs from Proven Winners. This is just the bloomerang purple. But gosh, look at this sweet variation on the blooms with the little white on the outside. Obviously the contrast in the colors of the buds in the back being the darker purple. I just love that. And this is definitely its best year so far blooming in my garden as well. So exciting to see that. And there's some more snow in summer. I pulled out kind of a lot of this last year. It just spreads like wildfire, and you can see how tall it is. It's probably a foot tall, the blooms in some spots, so it can get up there. Okay, coming down these front steps of our front garden, I come on to where I have most of my columbine, and you can see this. There's different varieties here, and it's just they're all from seed. They all just reseed themselves, so I don't know variety names or anything like that on these, but you can see these ones are just a pink. This light isn't too crazy. It's just a pink, and then there's these really gorgeous purple. These are similar to the purple we saw in the backyard, but I don't think these ones are quite as dark. And they're all double. Some of them more so than others. Like this one has, I feel like, a lot more petals necessarily than, oh, look at the spider on that one, than that one. So these are kind of, they're interesting. They're kind of making their own, maybe cross-pollinating. I don't know, but there's a lot of them here. Another one of the pink ones. This is just one of my favorite. I don't know if it transfers really well to video, but this dusty pink is just probably my favorite color in the garden. Lots of those yet to open up, so that'll be a beautiful show down here when all of those are open. And you can see the basket of gold is still in bloom. Some of it is going out. You can see there. This is another one that I'll have to shear back once it's done, because otherwise it will also spread a lot. So these ones are still really in full bloom. So, and up here you can see behind the cat, there's still some of the candy tuft in bloom. This is just a really pretty vista right here with the lilac in the back and the candy tuft and the beautiful color of the spirea. So come this way, we can see a little bit more of the phlox. And then this snow and summer is a different variety. It's a lot more close to the ground. It's much more dense than the other, not quite so airy, I guess. But you can just see it's just spilling down, and I love that. But it's it will be blooming a lot more than it is, but it's just now starting. And you can see over here that the candy tuft, pointed this out in my garden tour a couple weeks ago now, and it's still beautiful, still really full. And you can tell it's starting to peter out, but I think this will hold on yet for another week still. And some sea thrift that's blooming right there as well. Over on this side, we'll probably end up down here. You see that the rhodies that we planted are still in bloom. They're pushing some new buds, and the Spanish lavender that's in this garden is just starting to bloom as well. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these up here edging this bed, because these are evergreen and I like that element in the garden. So, and of course the diamond snow euphorbia is in bloom, but again, that's an annual, so it'll just be in bloom and not come in and out like all the other stuff really in the gardens will. You can also see one last thing, the deutzia, just starting to open. It has quite a few. Well, it's not too impressive how many buds this one has on it, but it'll still be pretty once it is in full bloom. Okay, I'm looking around trying to see if there's anything else that I wanted to show you. I think other than things that we've just planted in, you know, I mean, obviously there's perennials that we just planted in and annuals and all that are blooming, but you've already seen those. But I guess I'll come up here and end on these sweet little white daffodils that are still in bloom. They're my last ones to open, and so they're the last ones to be blooming, obviously, in amongst the wild strawberries that are obviously also in bloom. I kind of look at those as a weed, so we won't talk about those too much, but we do have these sweet white daffodils. They're a double. They're just finishing up, but still very, very sweet. Okay, well, I think we'll end here, and I hope you enjoyed this little quick look at just what's blooming in my garden right now. It's currently May 6th. I think you'll be seeing this probably tomorrow, and I'm excited to show you guys kind of, hopefully I can stay on this. Hopefully I can stay on it every other week, at least to show you, you know, we'll see if things are maybe not changing too much for a little bit. But anyways, it's fun just to walk around and take note of the things that are blooming. I think it's easy for me anyway, just to kind of keep my head down, keep plowing forward with projects, planting in new things or edging or, you know, all those maintenance things that I sometimes that I forget to stop and actually look at what is blooming. And it's just, I feel like it's about to burst here. So pretty excited to see what this season brings. And I'm excited to share it with you as it does. So thank you guys for hanging out with me and for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.